Hey, welcome to another episode. That's dope. My name is Godswill, and I have one of my best friends on that I've been wanting to have him on for such a long time, but it's like, oh no, we can't. Oh no, we can't. We actually even tried making a podcast together, and we got told, oh no, we can't. So, screw it. We're like, screw it. We're going to do an episode together because we keep having fire chats, and I think you guys should jump in on the fire chats too. I have one of my best friends, Aaron. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Glad to finally come on, man. We have been talking about it for a minute, but our lives, our industry lives, our busy lives have kept it from happening the way we want.
So far away.
I know.
just a little bit. But hey, we're here now. We're having a good time, and I'm excited to talk to you. So, we talk about like everything. We talk about like so much, and like I'm actually even wondering, I was like, what can we say on camera that that like we can't talk about?
I think we start out with like the deep, dark religious stuff we usually get into. Really turn off your listeners. Really,
there we go. And if they're still there, then we get into the politics.
Exactly.
Right?
See who the real That's Dope fans are.
Right.
Yeah. What's dope?
Get vaccinated, all that, right? Just everything.
There you go.
Controversial. Afghanistan. Vaccinations, Kanye West.
Gonna go Joe Biden, Donald Trump, all of them.
All of it.
100%.
I appreciate you for always sticking it out with the talks and all. So, first up, I guess like what really spurred this was one, we got to talk about the music that's been coming out, and that's supposed to be coming out. Because also one, you haven't like showed me as much music as recently, but it's probably not your fault because there's just probably not as much heat out there, right? Or is there heat?
I mean, I feel like there's some stuff coming out, but like lately too, because you and I always get deep into hip hop is like the big shared interest. But I mean, honestly, some of the stuff like Still Woozie's debut album has been big in rotation for me. I'm a big fan of Lorde's album that just came out the other day. It's not her usual stuff, but I honestly am a fan of like the kind of psychedelic vibe to it.
I heard that she got happy.
Yeah, it's kind of what it sounds like. Like she just had a good time and put something together. And I like that she took a different approach. It's not the kind of same thing. Because I think I've always thought she was really interesting, but she's come out with some solid stuff. And then beyond that, I listened to like Greta Van Fleet has been big for me.
They got new stuff?
The Battle at Garden's Gate, the album that came out this year. Yeah. They hit a lot of... they're great, man. They hit a lot of flack early on for being kind of like Led Zeppelin copies and stuff like that. But I feel like this is the album where I feel them kind of truly come into their own, having a little bit of their own sound and vibe. There's some cool symbolism behind this kind of system they've set up for all the tracks. I love diving into that kind of stuff. But I mean, in terms of hip hop, honestly, too, like there's been some solid stuff recently. Like Vince Staples just dropped, I think, one of the best albums of his career. Tyler, the Creator, just dropped, I think, probably his best album, honestly, my opinion. King's Disease 2 by Nas is one of the best Nas albums I've heard in a long time. Like, I would say twice as good as King's Disease 1, honestly. Mm-hmm. Him and Hit Boy is just a fantastic combination. So there's good stuff. New Big Crit. I don't know. There's been stuff coming out.
Yeah. No, I do dig that. I guess also, like, I know your music taste. I guess, can you explain, like, your music taste? Because... like I don't think anyone like knows that. Like, in fact, like a preface, like I get a lot of my new music from Aaron. Like he just sends me stuff as it comes out, and it's usually a banger. And like we even had like the experiment a little bit earlier in the year. Was it? Yeah, it was this year. I remember going to see the Demon Slayer movie, and then you sent me the hard rock, or not hard rock, the classic rock type of stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that you were like, this sounds super Southern, which I love, honestly. I love that take on it.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to Led Zeppelin, and like my biggest way into rock music is through Rock Band. Like having to go through every song, like on purpose, is like the only reason I know about a lot of the rock music I know about today.
Damn, that's a wild first intro because. My parents are super into music, and that was always a big thing. And like, I was born in the Bay Area. I live in Dallas now. I've been in Dallas for a really long time, but I was born in the Bay Area, and my parents were huge Deadheads. They followed the Grateful Dead. They loved that like type of psychedelic stuff. Like my mom is a huge Emerson Lake Palmer fan. She loves Little Feat, like a lot of that kind of old school, like psychedelic synthy kind of stuff. So I came up on a lot of that, and my dad was he was from Detroit, so I listened to like a lot of Motown stuff too, like Four Tops, Supremes, you know what I mean, that kind of business. Smokey Robinson, I knew a lot of that stuff. So like I listened to a lot of like classic rock and like classic R&B growing up, and that just super easily transitioned over into being super into hip hop. Honestly, like I think that's like an obvious next step between those two genres.
I mean, hey, because like I remember like the first time we ever met, like I still am like really shocked, like how you said Rakim was like your favorite, and I was like, oh, this guy's for real, huh?
Do love Rakim.
I didn't know what you would say, and like you really shocked me with that answer. I was really proud.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm a little sacrilege with Rakim, honestly, because like I do probably listen to more of his solo albums to date than I do even like, I mean, Paid in Full is a classic. Follow the Leader, Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. You know what I mean? Don't Sweat the Technique. Those albums were fantastic with Eric B. But I really liked his solo stuff. I know that's not super popular opinion, but I probably listened to the 18th Letter the most out of his whole discography. And I've spent a decent amount of time with the Seventh Seal too. I like his stuff a lot. He's always been a mainstay. I feel like I didn't really discover him until like years later on, because obviously I think like a lot of people, I was big early on, and like, I'm a white dude. I was big into Eminem, Lil Wayne, you know what I mean? That was kind of the early stuff, and got super deep over time.
Like just listening, I was listening to like some of those like old songs I used to love of theirs, like Lil Wayne and Eminem, like over just like a few days ago for some reason, like Forever. You remember that song Forever, right?
Oh my God,
song is a banger, and I was like, I think there was a time where I was like, oh, maybe this music wasn't that great, and I was like, wait a second, no, this music still bangs today. Like, it sort of feels bad that we have to be like, oh, Lil Wayne and Eminem, you know what I mean? Like as if like they're not like the great.
I think it's just cool for people to be like, I think it's cool for people to have their own opinion, honestly. So I'm just like, if people today, if young people today do, that sucks to say. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know,
like, you know what I mean? Don't like have that same type of like respect and esteem for Eminem and Lil Wayne. Like, I think that's honestly fine, because like, same for me is like, I got into the stuff that was modern to my taste and to my perspective first before I learned to appreciate the stuff that came before, because like it contextualizes it. Like all that stuff is directly influenced by those people before. So like having that context first, I think helps you go back. It's hard to hear something from like, especially if you're a kid that was born in like the aughts, you know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call them, the 2000s, like a kid born in 2001 aren't, like kids from 2003 are like 18 now, right? So, I mean,
yeah, 2005, I think is.
Yeah, like you don't have context for some of this stuff, so it's like you got to kind of build that up. So I think it's okay.
True. I keep wondering about that, because I mean, it's like I like some things from like the 80s, right? Like hip hop wise, right?
Because you built that context off of the stuff that you like, Kid Cudi, Lupe Fiasco, Childish Gambino. You built up your taste first, and then being able to branch out from it and see the stuff that connected to it led you, you know what I mean, down that way.
That's fair. See, this is why I like talking to Aaron. Like it's good understanding. Because I'm like, well, back in my day, I had respect, but then also it's like, did I have respect back then or now? I hope that at least the kids to us now, like get an understanding. It's like it sort of seems sort of bad to be like, oh, everything from before this time is troglodyte, whatever, like they're so behind the times and so barbaric. Is just like, but then again, yes, I understand like listening to modern things too, it's like not like I just started liking Phil Collins for real now,
Damn, that's interesting. What got you onto him?
I don't know, just some Phil Collins played, and I was
Tarzan.
Like, that song. That song makes me want to cry. I'm like, no, I don't want to think about my mom and be like, Mama, no. I mean, that Tarzan song like always made me like emotional. Oh, because also my mom sings that one too. I'm like,
he definitely had no business going that hard on that soundtrack for sure. I honestly, I'm not a huge like. I don't know that much Phil Collins. I don't know that much Genesis in general. My wife's family loves Phil Collins, but I don't know. I never dove that into him, honestly. So maybe I should give him more of a chance.
Random things will start sparking off, Like,
he's like he's one of those people I like give respect to, but yeah, I've not spent a lot of time checking out, honestly.
I don't blame it. This is worth it. I think like a dive through the 80s. Like, in fact, actually, I think that's what I'm doing now. Like more 80s music. Oh, that's interesting. But also like just more different genres too. Like, like not only doing hip hop, like of course, although I've really been like enjoying my love of Kid Cudi as of recent, like just like really diving into it. But also I've been
what projects
trying
you
to
go
dive
back
into
to?
like I'm really stuck in I guess like what's that album? Day and Night album? Man in the Moon, Man in the Moon.
Oh, Man in the Moon.
Yeah, one. Yeah, Man in the Moon 1, Man in the Moon
that's
2.
the classic.
Of course.
Those are the classics. I still revisit Indica a lot, honestly.
Yeah,
I think that one's pretty slept on.
I gotta tell you, my roommate was like, I sing that song loud when it comes Cold Blooded. I sing that song really loud.
Yeah. That's an easy one to belt out too.
Oh my god! And then my roommate was like, "What's that one song that you sing with the N word?" And I'm like, "Which one is that one?"
well phrased question, bro.
That's right. But it was particularly this one because I sing it. I usually don't even say the N word, but like this song, I just gotta. Cold.
You're feeling on that one?
Oh, I feel it. Oh my god, I love it.
You don't normally say the N word when you sing along to hip hop songs? That's shocking.
I sort of.
I feel like I've heard you do it.
Yeah, like sometimes. Like in fact, it's more a recent thing. I used to like never curse as a kid until like actually like 2 years ago. I would say 2 years ago is like when I started cursing. Yeah,
that's
how interesting.
That feels insane to me. How long have I known you?
5 years? Has it been 5 years?
I would say probably. I started Funimation in 2017. So yeah,
almost.
Pretty wild.
4 years. But hey, yeah, we've been through it, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, kidding.
But yeah, I didn't curse. I would say bastard a lot, and that was it, And then I was just like hot dog or gosh darn it, still do. But yeah, now it's like words are spicy, It's like SpongeBob episode.
That's shocking to me to hear because I know a lot of people from Garland, man, and that's not the same mentality at all, certainly.
Oh, absolutely not. I remember like my friends were like getting in trouble for cursing too loud when we would do sleepovers, like in 6th and 7th grade. I've
been cursing since kindergarten, 1st grade.
Yeah.
My family cursed like sailors for sure growing up. It's like my dad's side is like Irish Catholic, you know what I mean? It's breathing for them, bro. They just
yeah.
That's just how it is. It's a very big part of just, self-expression and processing emotions for me now. So it's true. You've seen the stuff like people, if you cuss while you're in pain, like it actually alleviates, like your body releases endorphins and stuff to like ease at a higher rate than when you're not cursing.
Just being stoic.
Yeah, it's like letting yourself have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I dig that.
It feels good to curse more. Like, I mean, like, like a good fuck. It just was sort of like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like I'm no longer, the puritanical type of a guy I used to be. At least I tried to be. I try to be pretty puritanical. Be like, no sex for me before I get married, and no cursing before. I don't know, but things change. It's sort of funny.
Yeah, same. I mean, I feel like it makes sense to like. I feel like I know people that don't curse because they don't curse, and that's just not their vibe. And then I know people that are like, I won't curse. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's two pretty distinctly different psychologies there, honestly, is like, if you're a person who has the urge to, and you're forcibly censoring yourself, I feel a little bad for you. But if you're a person who just like, when the moment strikes and it feels right and you do it and it just isn't kind of your bag otherwise, I like that better. Because that's what it is for me, is like naturally, I these words come out of my mouth all the time. And when I'm not doing that, I do feel slightly like I'm being a less authentic version of myself. You know what I mean? If I feel comfortable enough to cuss and just kind of let things out and not care, I feel like you've got a more authentic version of me. And if I'm cussing less, that probably means I'm holding back.
You're holding back, anxious like mentally. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're trying to be mature in a sense, right?
Yeah. Because you can't, what I mean, at work and shit, you can't just let it fly whenever. The same way, at least.
That's
some
true, yeah.
Some conversations certainly. Funimation in some circles certainly.
Yes. I have something I remember like when I first got to Funimation, and I was like, I think the first thing that really jarred me, just like people like saying fuck or shit in the meeting rooms. I'm like, oh, I thought we're supposed to. I thought
professionalism.
Yeah. And I was like, I guess I'll shit, am I gonna get in trouble? But it was fun. What started me cursing was explicitly Panka a Disco, fuck a silver lining. Like that song, like was just my
just
jam.
to sing along, basically.
Yes, I was just sort of like fuck a silver lining, and I'm like, yeah, and it just felt like gospel. I was just like, this is exactly what I want to say, And I was like, and that's what broke the chain of like not cursing. I was like, oh, I shouldn't curse. Like, so I always just said like what like the good boy version of it, right? But now, yeah,
that's interesting. I feel like it was movies for me, like movies and like TV shows, because I definitely like started watching like South Park and stuff at a young age too.
Yeah.
But I remember watching. I think it was Halloween when I was like 11-ish, like 11 or 12-ish, and like hearing people cuss in that movie in fear and like hearing it psychologically, like when I would get jump scared in the movie, I would let it out too and be like, oh, like nobody hears me. You know what I mean? Kind of but I think just like, you know what I mean? We're proving the point everybody has of like, oh, video games make you do this, and movies and music make you do this. Because I feel like for me it was an influence. I think the reality of it is
like, look, I played Conker's Bad Fur Day when I was 6 years old. I turned out okay.
The whole thing, or you just hadn't played it?
Yeah, I like rented it from Blockbuster, and like we like played it at sleepovers. Like we played the multiplayer, we played the single player.
Yeah. I feel like there were so many, especially at the age of 6, going through Blockbuster. I feel like there are so many guardrails that should have stopped you.
I don't know how we got it, but we got it, and I played it, and I was like, "Wow, this game is."
The Blockbuster dude wasn't like, "This game is rated M." Your child, your mom.
I don't know. I
assume she was playing it. Wild.
Which would be wild. Is like you absolutely know moms aren't playing this game. I like the marketing for it. It was just the black background. Like do you remember seeing the game? Like just like the box. Really. It was just black background, and this is Conker's Bad Fur Day, and it just said rated M. And you were like, what is this about? Why is this game rated M? Oh my god.
I mean, it makes sense
why it's rated M. My god. Like I honestly like I sort of hope that kids like get a sort of uncensored growing up like how we did. You know what I mean?
I think that's how we learned it stuff for sure. I think there's definitely like over sheltering going on. I got good friends right now with a little one. He's like 10, 11 months old. He's adorable, and it's very just like as a person who's seeing like a peer of mine have a kid and go through the motions of that for the first time. It is interesting to see this stuff of like, you know what I mean? The stuff they want to try to shield them from. And part of me is like, I wouldn't do that. Like I would, but you know what I mean? I don't know the perspective, how much more you want to kind of protect. Cause part of me is like, I feel like you got to just super expose kids. Like,
I think so. I honestly think
you got to, I mean, don't go crazy. Don't like, you know what I mean? Like there's such thing as too traumatized, but frankly, there's the right thing is the right amount of traumatized. You got to be a little traumatized.
I agree personally, it's I think is like going through it like the best way is like what's necessary versus like trying to prevent things from happening. I'm like, it's only going to get worse, I think, the more that like it's just more everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
hell yeah. Like, dude, I'm 10 years later, I'm like, the shit I talk about the most from, you know what I mean? High school, college is like the fucked up stuff, the traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the stuff that's fun to think about. That's the stuff that shaped you. That's the stuff that made you. I definitely remember fun times and stuff too, but I don't know. Like, when I was in high school, I got in trouble a lot. My parents shipped me up to Nebraska to work all summer on a ranch.
Yeah.
So I like had, just such like horrible, crazy, like learned the true meaning of life and death in a deeper way out there and stuff like that. And it's like, I look back on like at the time I was like, this sucks.
Suffering.
Right. My whole summer is gone. I'm all alone. Like, I'm doing, all kinds of cowboy shit that is not my vibe at all, but I was forced through it. And I'm grateful for it now. Cause I feel like I've gotten to see honestly too, like a perspective on those type of rural white folks that everybody shits on now too. It's just like, you know what I mean? Cause I agree. The views are problematic and stuff, but at least I've got a little bit of an understanding of the psychology and the perspective around like, when you live life a certain kind of way that's frankly so fundamentally different from what the majority of people at this point gathered in large cities are living. It's different, man. You see the world different. So
it's true.
I'm grateful for it, and that's I feel like it's got to be. I'm like, you got to come up with shit like that for kids.
I personally agree. Like I think that we shouldn't try to hide this stuff. It's like like one thing that Nigerian families do. If you're really bad or like really raunchy, I guess, right? They ship you out to Nigeria for the summer break or whatever, right? And honestly, I would do that. Like if
they do that to you,
like no, not to me. They almost did it to my brother though. My brother, like I was a good boy, right? I got to go to summer camps. I went to nerd summer camps and it was amazing. I had a great time, Like
you were too busy LARPing, bro.
Experience. Yes.
Yeah.
Although I saw things there too that just sort of opened my eyes, like where I was like, oh.
That's a different, The American Pie band camp version of it. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, very much so. It's like, it felt like a movie. So very much like a sitcom.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brother, like he almost got shipped to Nigeria for a summer break. And for me, it makes sense. Like, I mean, sort of see what the world is like, and like how tough it can be in other places or just different perspectives. I think it's, I can't say like, oh, you should raise your kid this way or you shouldn't do this way, right? But sometimes I do wonder like how much over parenting or how much helicoptering we do. It's like it sort of sucks. Like I have some neighbor kids, like they play like in the driveway, like of all the garages, I'm just like, dang, like I hope they get to go out. I understand outside is dangerous. There's a lot of cars out there. There's all different types of people.
Yeah.
But man, I'm like also you got to have a chance to explore, right? But at the same time, I don't blame all the fear that's going on.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, when I was like young, like elementary school and stuff too, it was like I would get home from school and then like do homework or whatever, and then be gone like all my, you know what I mean, until late, and then come home. Like I would roam around the neighborhood and do all kinds of stuff. Like I mean, granted, I probably bordered on like probably too little supervision overall at that age. I was like completely unsupervised, I would say, from like age 7 until like probably 15, 16, until people started kind of being like, hey, what's going on with you? You know what I mean? And then they started sending me to Nebraska. But like, I think that stuff was good though. Like it like, taught you independence. It taught you to like make social connections without a parent or another friend or a crutch there kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like to branch out and put yourself out there. I liked it. But also at the same time, dude, I'm looking at people. It's like, if you're raising a kid during COVID, like these are uncertain times, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got a kid who's at home with you all day. They're part of your quarantine. They're stuck with you. Yeah. They're there all the time. Like, and you're scared to expose them to other people for a deeper level, which is tough too. Because like psychologically, that's going to take a toll on parents now.
I feel bad.
You're having kids during this time. You're trying to keep them safe, and like, and more natural sheltering is going to occur.
Yeah. This is the best time to be just so unattached, like, or just at least like attached with like a partner, right? Just a peer who is your age, and you don't have to do too much for them, right? Like, this is the best time. All right. Like, I'm super happy. I'm just super single and just like, okay, I don't have to like raise another person or anything like that. Like I don't blame anybody, I guess now. Everything is just so uncertain and just seems so unfortunate in a way, but we'll make it, right? Like for me, like if everything was shut down, I honestly would be sort of okay. More than okay. Actually, I'd be pretty happy in a way. I'm like, cool, I'll go out. And, like maybe it's like, oh, maybe I do get this dog now, like, or I'm just going to keep playing video games and do what I do, right? But, when you do have to take care of people, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess you have to be really responsible, huh?
But that's the thing that's nice about that, and like the thing that like, you know what I mean, as I consider my own, eventual and likely ascent or attempt at fatherhood, is also just like there is something pure about like the chapter of my life that I did lead much more selfishly versus a time when like what my perspective is going to look like when that type of selfishness and that type of like investment in myself is no longer possible in the same way.
Yeah.
And I will be thrust into a place of having to live a more selfless existence. And I think it's like, good for parents to exist in that way too. Because I think they're like, I think they are naturally more empathetic beings. Like I even see like my dad now. I know what my dad was like as a kid, and he's like super squeamish with like horror movies and all that type of shit. And I talked to him about it. He's like, I can't help but when I see that stuff to picture it like happening to me or happening to someone I know. Like, and it's like me watching horror movie. It's like I don't empathize with, you know what I mean? In the same way with people like that at all. I'm just like, I know that's a dumb example, but I'm just like, there's a certain level of, I think, of empathy that comes from that. Unless you suck, unless you're a shitty person, I think it probably changes you in a profound way. And I'm like excited to see what that version of myself could look like. But right now, man, I want to be selfish as fuck. Being at home for COVID is like, it's like, dude, like we were talking about a second with music. I'm like, dude, it's like, I'm going to enjoy all the art I want to enjoy. Like I'm going to enjoy anime how I want to enjoy it, music how I want to enjoy it. My wife, like I want to enjoy time with her, like all this kind of stuff that I want for me, and just like, you know what I mean?
That's how I feel. Like, whereas like, I definitely want to, like, I think you said hit it on the head, like where I'm excited. Like, I know there's going to be a time where I just have to be less selfish. And I think that's going to be a good thing. But at the same time, right now, I guess, especially like I'm just so unattached that it's just sort of like, cool, why not just enjoy this? Because this moment probably will never happen again. Hopefully it never happens again. But at the same time, it will never happen again like this, right? So it is. But
you're working, you know what I mean? You and I have talked. It's like we're like both of us, like it is a focused selfishness, at least, where it's like we are actively building ourselves up. And that is like what's important about it is like you are using that selfishness to sharpen yourself and to be around people that will sharpen you. You know what I mean? Because that's the real is like whatever that stupid saying is, like steel sharpens steel. So it's like part of this too, and my time kind of being more reflective inside is like made me think about the people that I spend time with, you know what I mean? And how I spend my time with people and like making the most out of those kind of interactions and stuff a little bit more, which is cool. Cause like I'm saying, like now that I'm seeing my buddy who's got this kid, it's like, it's a different dynamic, but it's beautiful. And I've seen this man become a much more loving version of himself and stuff like that. And being around him is now an investment of me, not only in him as a friend, but in him as his family, as a part of my life. You know what I mean? And that's
really nice.
It's very different, man. It's totally very different. And I've watched him, just like us, like really sharpen himself and build himself up to a point of being ready. He's just a blessed and sharp dude. Him and his wife both just sharp individuals who like really got their shit figured out, and like the timing was right for them to do the kid thing. So it's just cool to see, man. And like that's why this is dope.
Good example that I've heard. You know, don't get me wrong. Like I'm actually pretty proud of like a lot of our peers are starting to get kids. Like they're doing a good job, I think. Like people like our age, our generation, right? Of like this sort of older millennial type of deal. Even younger millennials, I think, are doing pretty good. But
I mean, not really, but like you know, kind of like all things considered. Because I mean, I think that's the true level of how beat down our generation is, kind of a little bit too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The silver lining here, but the reality is. We live in the only period of time where this type of disaster is like somewhat like livable and mitigatable. Like, dude, think about like Great Depression. Think about bubonic plague. Think about like Cuban Missile Crisis. Like, think about some of the Cold War. Like some of the shit people have been through. The type of day-to-day fear people live with and stuff. Like, COVID is definitely rough. Definitely not downplaying it, but like humanity has made it through some rough ass times, but we didn't have the ability to pop on and video chat from Dallas to LA whenever we want.
Right. I mean, I feel very blessed about like how things are right now, especially like just to be a nerd right now. I'm actually having a great time because I get to have more time with the nerd stuff I want to do, you know? And then I can connect with y'all as easy as possible. Hey, you want to watch JoJo's, right? Hey, you want to watch? Hey, you want to go?
We will tomorrow. We got our JoJo's date tomorrow. Yeah. But that's the thing too is, dude, beautiful thing for me is like I've loved watching how many new people, because of the free time, especially early on in COVID, are like, I'm finally going to give One Piece a try. I'm finally going to watch Naruto. I'm finally going to get into this. Yeah, let's talk about One Piece. Like, I'm finally going to get into giving this, like, you know what I mean, epic level, just really long running stuff a shot. And I'm like, I've been like fully cheerleading. Like, go, do it. Let yourself have it.
I'm so happy that I'm so happy that we get to like do these things. You know, it's like this is really cool. Like, it's a wonderful time to be a nerd, and it's a wonderful time to get into being a nerd. You know, I think we finally have an understanding about it. Then we, you know, like we caught onto it early, but then like the world is like, oh, this stuff is actually cool, you know, and there's so much more to it than just it's much more than just a stereotype. It's much, it's like actually like a good medium finally, the fact that we're actually calling a medium versus just a genre, thinking it's just some weird little outshoot from a foreign country. Now it's like, oh, it's a full medium that people should be enjoying, right? I'm happy.
And in terms of anime specifically, yeah. But like even beyond nerds, dude, it's a good time to be passionate, even better, even greater. Because it's just like that's really the thing that has differentiated the most is I think like the people who've always been slower to accept nerdom or pick on nerdom are just honestly tend to be people who have less of that direct passion in their life and are just kind of floating around. Because it's like if there's not something that you geek out about, if there's not something that gets you that giddy and excited, like frankly, you're a little bit less interesting of a person to me. You know what I mean?
Facts. I'm trying to think of like an example of like, oh, that's not right. You can't say someone's less interesting. No, honestly, I think it. I believe it too. Like,
you gotta have passion. You gotta have the things that get you excited, man. Because like there's some people that's like the only thing that gets them excited is like making enough money to go out and do, you know what I mean, a night out at the bars one time,
right?
Like, it's like that's like what they're living for the whole time. It's just like, and then you like because it's like you have to bars with people that are like bars people, dude. It's like, what are you talking about? You're not into anything.
I keep wondering about that too. I'm like, people just sort of stand or just drink a thing at the bar, right? Like I've always seen it in TV. We've always seen it in TV.
It's like, that's the same thing. It's like, what is that conversation? People pressuring each other to do different drinks. People reacting to their drinks.
Even if at least they tried that, like where it's like, oh, here's a different drink. It's the regular drink, right? Give me the same thing.
I mean, you go physical, like you go out and dance because you're passionate about dancing, and for sure, you're not talking about it, I guess, but like you're doing it. You're exercising it a different way. I suppose.
It even happened this a few days ago, literally, like on Saturday. Like I went to a bar, and then like one dude just like he hung out with me like the whole time. Random guy I didn't know about. That's a whole story actually, but random guy didn't like, nice guy, but he just bought just Jack Daniels and ice, on the rocks, right, and just sipped that and just stood in the corner, and I'm just sort of like, huh, this is what you do. And he's like, yeah, I just want to come to this place and just drink, but I didn't have anything to talk to him about. I was like, well, I'm here to dance, so cool.
wait, what? So he.
What? He just did exactly all that. Like,
does he like watching people dance? Does he like trying different drinks? What's the
he just drank the same.
Does he try to meet people?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
I mean, just an introvert who wants to get some perspective,
Maybe. I don't know.
Just wants to see different stuff. That's interesting.
I guess so, but I mean, it was hard to like talk to him about. Also, like, okay, how come, why? But it was just like, okay, cool. But he just hung around me the whole time.
Huh? I mean, clearly he had an interest in some. What?
I don't know. He just followed me into a bar, and then he was just sort of like, "Hey, I'm gonna stick with you." I'm like,
good on you.
Okay, I guess. Dude. I don't. It's like I'm just here to dance. You gonna dance? I don't know. It was a weird night. It was a weird time. Like it was a weird time for sure.
Good on you for being such a nice guy, though, dude. I'm so not inviting like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like, I do. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna tell the story about what happened this weekend to me. All right, nothing bad happened. Nothing bad at all happened. But it was just like, oh, this is just all strange, right? So I opened up this can of worms. And I'm just sort of like, here's the story here. So, and actually, I haven't told anyone this, but I want to tell you. But I'm like, should I say this on the podcast? But I'm like, fuck it, let's just say it, all right? So
you can edit it out after if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. So what happened was, so I went to a bar. So I went to a comedy show. Comedy show was good, right? Andrew Schultz. I had a good time. I wish that people were allowed to joke about flagrant things. I'm sort of mad at how people get so offended that someone said anything offensive. They talked about something offensive. That's something I really dig about comedy, comedians. Like where they say offensive things and then it makes you think. You laugh about it because it's like, oh, this is bad, but it's not like. I wish that people would get less offended about jokes being made. So anyway,
I think a lot of comedians aren't even immune to it, though. Honestly, though, man, I don't think a lot of comedians are immune to it. And frankly, I think it was always the same way. I think it was always with a positioning of meaning to be thought provoking and kind of like draw awareness to it. I think the world just wasn't ready to see those guys as honestly like poets and performers in the way they do now.
That makes sense. That's a great point. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, hopefully things are getting better. I'm just seeing it more and more, especially like on Twitter and such. It's just sort of like, yo, y'all need to chill. Like, stop getting mad at a comedian talking about, offensive things. We know these things are offensive. Okay,
I just think the pendulum will swing back at some point. I think people are going to get bored of this shit, honestly. Like, it's just trendy to be a shithead right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a cancel kind of person. And like, there's a level of that culture that I think is good and was needed and stuff like that. But like, we swung too far. I think we're going to swing back. I think it's going to be fine. To me, it's just like, I'm not doing the social media thing in the same way because I'm like, I'm going to let you guys get it all out of your fucking system, and maybe this can be a fun place for me again one day. But right now, it's so ruined every platform for various reasons.
Smart man, yeah. Stay off of it. Like I'm having a good time. It is dangerous waters, but I think luckily because of my job, I'm like, okay, here's how to.
You bring the right energy to it, dude. Though you know what I mean. You bring the right energy to it. I can't. Like, you're just too positive. Like, I get on there and then I'll be like, you know what? I'm bigger than this. And then 10 minutes later, I'll be like, this fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I can't. I know my flaws too well to know that it's not the right climate for me anymore.
Good on you. And also right now, I think I'm on it like a little bit too much because I'm like, oh, maybe I can find a girlfriend on here. People do that, right? But so
yeah.
So Friday, I go out. All right, go out to a dance spot like after the comedy show, and having a pretty good time. Right, chick comes up to me, and she is righteous, bro. I'm like this is exactly like she's dorky. She's rubbing on. I'm sweaty, all right. Like I'm sweating my ass off because I'm dancing, of course, right. Although I feel like I sweat a little bit too much. I'm not sure what's up with that. Anyways, wear black shirts. So
you be a sweaty man. Just do it. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, anyways, this chick is like
dancing,
actually like, bro. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm glad people understand, but I do feel like it turns people off. Like they just see how sweaty I am when dancing. I'm just like, hey, you guys want to just don't worry about that. It's just clean sweat.
It's clean sweat.
It's clean. Yeah. Man, like I'm still a little sore about it actually. So like this chick is like righteous, honestly, right? But she gives me her phone number and her Instagram, all right? But then I hit her up the next day. She adds me on her Instagram, and she's actually like married with a baby. And I was like, why? Gosh darn it. So I go back out.
That just was not the vibe that was being put down at the moment.
No, not at all. Like I didn't know at all, that she was married with a baby. Like, so I was just like, what a wild turn, and just sad because she was really hot, bro. So anyways, I go out Saturday. Let me just try again. All right. So I meet that guy. I go to this one club because I get a flyer for a club I've been to, right? He's waiting outside of the bar. He's like, hey, is this place cool? I'm like, I went here once and it was cool. So sure. He comes with me. He's like, let me get you a drink. I'm like, okay, I drink what you drink. Got Jack Daniels on the rocks. I'm like, okay, I guess, I guess I'll
kind of gross, but fine. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just real like, not really, type of bar drink I'm hoping to do, but whatever. Right. And they're playing like goth music at this place. Last time when I went there, they're playing house music, so it was easy to dance to. This time, just sort of goth, just, just like, yeah, this is cool, but not my vibe. I came here for hoping for like a hopping type of vibe. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to another bar, right? And he's like, okay, let's go. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. So I drive him to. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have done that. Anyways,
you're wild, man. You're wild.
I know. I've been saying fuck it a lot more. Especially like here I'm in LA. I have some friends out here, but not really yet. Like I have some friends. Things were going really well.
As soon as you moved out there, man, you got locked in your apartment.
Unfortunately, that's the thing. Because like I was starting to make friends. It was actually great. Fantastic. I even had like a One Piece Sanji day. That was a wonderful hangout session, right? But Corona. Anyways. Yeah, so I'm starting to get back to hangouts with people. Anyways, I'm going out more so I can hopefully meet people and hopefully fix my girlfriend situation I've been complaining about forever. that whole thing on Friday was like, I got to go back out there and try again. All right. At least I got like the attention. Right. So I go out and meet this dude. This dude sticks with me like the whole evening. And at the end of the night, he's like, hey, how about a hug, man? I'm like, I guess. And he's like, how about a kiss, man? I'm like, oh no, I'm good, bro.
Oh shit, he was coming on to you. Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, come with me to my car. I'm like, I'm good.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like, why is this? I just being nice. I thought this guy was just because he was like an immigrant from someplace else. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe, just more intimate or something, But
poor guy, dude. Well. He was just out there trying to meet people too,
Yeah, damn. But I'm just sort of like, damn. So now I'm like, how do I feel? I don't know, but it's just so. Anyways, that was like that. I just had to finish the story of what I had brought up. I didn't mean to bring it up, but anyways, back to the story of like people just going to bars and just drinking. So I was like, I gotta tell you this, but I'm like, fuck it, I'll just tell this story. Anyways, that's how my weekend was. It's just keep on going to bars and just dancing my ass off, and then some weird random encounter is gonna happen. We'll see what's gonna go down. That's funny.
That's cool though, man. Honestly, because like I'm still really not getting out there like that at this point. Like,
hey, you don't have to.
I'm definitely seeing people more, but I'm not like I haven't been out to a bar probably since this. Oh, no, that's not true. Is it? Yeah, I don't know if I have. Yeah, maybe like in a smaller capacity, but like I've been to restaurants and stuff like that too. And I'm going to Austin for Labor Day weekend and stuff like that. So also because I got people there and I'm gonna go see them and stuff. So I'll probably be out a little bit more, but no, I'm probably not 6th Street. There's the new street now, dude. There's the new bar street.
See, I'm getting old. I don't even know what's popping in the streets anymore.
I can't remember what it's called now, man. I can't remember, but I did my bachelor party out there too, and it was a great time.
Yeah. That's a good spot.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't freaking remember the name of it. I don't know. There's another street, but yeah, it's a good place to be. So we'll see. I'll try and get out and see what that vibe is like now. Honestly, I haven't super missed out on it for certain reasons, and I feel like I said, man, just like for the most part, I'm like spending more time with like my people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not even in terms of like a small circle necessarily, but just like hitting the people that I really want to see. And spending less time with just the kind of like, random mutuals that I just kind of like dealt with. I definitely got some people that's like, I wish I could connect with again too. It's been too long, just not as much opportunity, or like, just frankly, like friends of mine that just like have not been playing it as safe and cool with the whole COVID thing, that I'm just like, there's people who I'm risking it for, man. And it's not you. I like love you, but like, I'll see you in 8 months when we get through this shit,
Yeah.
Like, that is what it is. That tough conversation. Like, remember that when COVID was first starting up and you were coming out to hang out with me, and we were like, I was like, oh, man, maybe we shouldn't do it. And you're all pissed off. You're like, dude, what are you? Like, come on, like we got to be together now. I was like, no, bro, together is how we spread it. We got to keep a distance. Like,
it was literally like the weekends that the shutdowns were starting to happen, and it was just sort of like, maybe we can catch it early, and then we just don't hang out, right? But it's a wise idea. I think that's wise on how to be with people. You gotta do that these days. Like, it's still unfortunately like really crazy. It's about to get crazier, and now it's just becoming so much more of a cultural thing. It's so weird.
Yeah, but and that's the thing too, is like, because dude, I empathize a little bit with the reality of just like, also like, you still gotta like fucking live your life. You know what I mean? You still gotta like, you don't gain anything from just like being a depressed, paranoid person in your house by yourself. Like, that's not like. You know what I mean? Calling agoraphobia your martyrdom, I don't think is really, a better way to live. But there's a balance, and there's just general safety, and that's my thing. Is like, I see a lot of the people who in my life that are still doing the general safety thing, and beyond that, sometimes it's just tough. But like, you and I hang every time you come into town and everything too. So we've made it work, and I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, definitely, we're trying to be safe. I think like there's always been a balance. There should be a balance about this whole thing. I'm sort of mad about like how it's like, especially like people who don't want to do it at all. It's just sort of like, this thing doesn't exist, and y'all are crazy for being afraid of this. I think that's the thing that's like the biggest bummer about like the other side right now. But like I do agree. It's like,
I don't get where it comes from.
Yeah. It's just being contrarian, unfortunately, like, versus like trying to to see a solution, because I agree. Like, I'm not saying like we should go, like everyone should be double masked. Maybe we should be, but at the same time, I'm like, let's be rational about how we try to live our lives. Humans aren't meant to be isolated like this from each other. Like, there's not really supposed to be a natural thing. Quarantine, even like 14 days alone for a person is enough to break a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But so I think there should be some type of balance. But I do wish that people would take it seriously together, so we can just sort of get past this. But that's just continuous. Like, how do we fix stupid, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, man.
Emotions.
Like,
I shouldn't say stupid. I should say base emotions. Really, it's like fear, or this sort of the 5 emotions. Like when you're going through like a traumatic time. Not necessarily stupid, but I do wish that people would just be aware, I guess, right? Denial.
It's weird where it comes from too, because like I just see people posting and shit on Facebook. Like I see the people like talking about this kind of thing, and it is weird how like certain pieces of news and tidbits, you know what I mean, are overshared with a certain indexing of people and things like that. It's just like it's kind of tough, the people that become victim to it, and the reality is, I think just like the nature of how much our lives have been infiltrated by, you know what I mean, the algorithms of Google and Facebook and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think there's some way that there's rhetoric that's been pervasive enough to get inside of all of us, like to some degree. And I think that definitely is a thing for tribalism, because like as hard as we're saying like it's reactionary and we want to cling away from people who, you know what I mean, think differently than us about COVID and stuff, at the same time, it's just kind of like, that division and stuff was there before that too. Like this was definitely like a powder keg to set it off a little bit further, like a big catalyst. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like that was already there and already brewing. And I think what is going on online, the amount of information that we'd be given to process is making that more difficult. Either way, it's just tough. It's tough to watch everything kind of descend back into like a level of cyber tribalism or something, like.
Yeah,
but I don't know, because it's tough too, because it's like, I got people in my family that are big Trumpers. I got friends who are kind of like more in the central lane now, and even the people in the central lane, I'm like, what is there to be on the fence about at this point? You know what I mean? And like, and then that's me driving the polarization. You know what I mean? That's me divided. You know what I mean? Driving that division further. But it's still just like, I don't know. It's like, it has come to a point where it's like, I can't get how you don't fall from one side of the fence to the other.
Like I mean, definitely, like I'm tribalist myself too. I'm trying not to be, but at the same time, I am, if I'm going to be honest, right? And I'm trying to like be more empathetic, I guess, to the other side, because definitely I understand like the fear. I understand the hesitation. I just wish that we could like really have like the conversation, like, and unfortunately, like we're just being contrarian to each other at this point, like even now, like, a big excuse for a lot of people was, we're not going to get this vaccine because, like it just got FDA approved, right?
Yeah.
But, how many of those people are now going to go back on what they said and, get this, vaccine, right? I mean, FDA approvals wasn't enough for a lot of people beforehand. So, it's like, oh, wait a second. Is this like a real goalpost? Now let's move it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's kind of like, what level was that just an excuse? Honestly, what level was it? Like, I won't get it until it's FDA approved, just as to be able to say you had a reason not to get it.
Man, what a time! Like, I do hope that we get through. Well, we'll one way or another have to get through this virus, unless it wipes us all out and it's just Last of Us style, right? Okay.
I mean, I do think it's going to be one of those things. Like, I do feel like at this point it is going to be one of those things where it's like, like the flu shot, like it's just this kind of thing that you're always kind of like dealing with in the background. Like, think about all like people act like vaccines is crazy. I mean, think about how many vaccines you had to have before you even like left the hospital and shit.
I wish people would think about that. It's like, I mean, even to get like a government job, to join the military, to be a policeman or whatever, right? You to go to a hospital, you had to get all different types of vaccinations for tetanus, or I mean, just even beforehand, all the hepatitis stuff that we had to go through, right? Is like when the HPV thing, isn't that a vaccine?
There, I don't know. I know there's virus. I think there's a vaccine for stuff that can cause. I don't know if there is one for that specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know enough about that necessarily, but
I think that's very good.
I mean, like polio. It's nice to not have polio. That was a real thing. That was a problem.
Yeah,
so
but no one knows about it today. I mean, like you ask a kid what's polio, they'll be like a shirt. So it's.
I mean, you look at the kids getting measles like last year or whenever that was too, because their parents weren't letting get the measles vaccine and stuff. It's just like that's pretty tangible evidence of what happens, but.
Should be, but
I don't know. It is wild shit. It's hard to reconcile, but
yeah. Let's talk about something like One Piece.
I'm down. Did you read the chapter? You read this
yeah.
Oh
chapter? Yeah. Yeah, I just read it. What just happened again? Like let me see. I gotta remember like what just happened because
the last panel was the biggest deal. But I mean. I think honestly, like probably top 3 One Piece chapters I've ever read was 1021 was fucking Robin, dude.
Oh man,
just having the moment and the freedom I've always wanted to have. It was beautiful to watch. And then we go to this week is Zoro and Sanji, making their big breakback. I was shocked to see Marco kind of like willingly take a back seat to it. You know what I mean? That kind of threw me off.
I thought he'd be more about it, but I guess like he's tired or something like that. I don't know. Or
he's tired. I don't know, dude. I feel like Marco is like I feel like he's the ultimate inheritor of Whitebeard's will in a way, because how Whitebeard kind of like the floor was open for Whitebeard to try to be king of the pirates. He never he really did it. He didn't necessarily have like that ambition. He like had his family and stuff like that. And I just like I feel like that's where Marco's at a little bit too. I think Marco's just kind of like whatever, because he even says something along the lines of like, I'll let the stars take the show or something like that, and then to have that be juxtaposed immediately with Zoro and Sanji talking about we're about to see a glimpse of Luffy as the king of the pirates and shit. I was like, damn, that's hype. I've been with the theories that they're going to lose the raid, honestly, but after this one, I'm like, I feel like this is it. It's a little too similar to the Doflamingo formula here, where he gets beat and runs away and comes back and stuff. And I would love to just see Luffy just like
we got to retreat,
just take somebody on without it being, halfway through retreat and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Nobody he's fighting is taking a half break retreat from him and coming back. I want to see him in those shoes.
I have the utmost faith in Oda. It's like I don't even like. Start to think about like theories as much right now, because I'm just sort of like I have no clue like where things are going, and I just want to be surprised, and I have been surprised so many times already. So let's go. Like I think Oda is gonna like do something like this, like what he is doing. He's gonna do something that shocks us all. Like I mean, like I keep. I don't know like how things are gonna go down. It's like this whole thing has just been wild. I don't know. Shoot, I wish we were like a little bit like this is also just this area that we're in One Piece has just been so much is happening that like it is nice to slow down with the anime, and it's nice to just take a back seat and sort of turn my brain off in a bit and just be like, oh my gosh, this is some crazy thing that I didn't know was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like I do know what you mean, but I feel like I don't experience it with One Piece, honestly.
Yeah, because you're thinking, you're
I
thinking
do experience this. Yeah, I think heavy about One Piece, honestly. Like I think the theory end of it for me is like it's so hard to escape from, and it's not about not having faith in Oda or like even trying to like figure out what the story is. It's just so much about like trying to understand like what's going to resonate. What are the things people are kind of catching on to? What are the things that matter? Like, you think about every arc of One Piece, you think about every character story and all this kind of stuff. Like, One Piece is so dense, and there's a reality of like after the fact, there's only X percentage of every arc that like really retains some level of prominence in the zeitgeist, like that like the community talks about, that people care about, and things like that. And it's kind of like for me. Part of knowing like and trying to figure out where these theories lie and how things are going to net out is part of trying to like crack that code a little bit of like what of this is going to be the stuff that like really resonates, that makes an impact, that 10 years after One Piece is over, like people are going to be talking about still, as opposed to just like the shit that was cool for a chapter and moved on. Because like that's been me for this whole like Act 3 raid, is like there's so much going on, great moments, like thrill to read. Every chapter's got something to drop. But when you got like, yeah, exactly. What sticks when 30 chapters back to back all drop a thing? You know what I mean? Like which one of these moments is truly going to stand out? And for me, I think the Robin moment, taking down Black Maria, is easily the biggest standout of all the confrontations that have happened. Besides maybe the, I don't know. Actually, I take it back. No,
I think it's like the only like real confrontation to have been finished in a way, right? Like everything else has just been like so ongoing. You know, like Nami and Usopp versus Big Mom, right? Still ongoing. Frankie just finished the Sasuke.
Sasuke.
Yeah,
but they
Sasuke,
just,
there we go.
but they just like but that's the thing. They off-screened that. They off-screened Frankie beating Sasuke. They off-screened Jinbei beating Who's Who. It was just them laying down and they're like the Tobiropo's beating. And I'm just like, what? Because I mean, I think they're setting up the anime well in that way, so that it can kind of like flesh that stuff
cool
out.
To watch. Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna go bigger with it. They're gonna go bigger with it for sure.
Yeah. Because man, like I definitely feel like the pressure of like you gotta explain everything that's gonna happen here in this manga, but you know, just no time, and then all, you know, I want to go on vacation too, right? You know, But yeah, I definitely want Oda to keep on going. Like, I mean, I'm excited. It's like I like the theorizing part of it all. I think for me is like also is like it feels like almost like a spoiler, like where I'm like, that could happen. I didn't think about that, you know.
Well, bro, it so rarely does, or if it does, it's only like pieces of it. I will say this last I was watching O'Hara. You seen O'Hara's big theory thing that he put out? A lot of people talking about it. Oh, you should watch. You should. I feel like I sent it to you. I feel like I sent it to you.
Send it to me again.
I saw a solid, super recently. I saw a solid O'Hara theory, and he had some clickbaity ass title that was like, the best One Piece theory ever, and it was pretty interesting and had some weight to it. But then, what's his name? Grand Line Review did a very good response video where he kind of picked apart the pieces of the argument that were valid versus the stuff that was kind of just like, coincidentally convenient or something like that, which was interesting to sift through. Followed by Grand Line Review doing his own theory about Blackbeard, which is really good. So there's been like, I just like that it gets people thinking, it gets people talking, it gets people looking at. Because, dude, like otherwise, like if nobody dug into this and tried to find this,
I'm glad that people. The
details. Like I love that layers in are like overlooked. They're wasted. All that effort is wasted if we're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, like, look, I'm not saying like I don't think theories are bad or dumb. Like I think they're actually like the best thing ever. I'm super happy that they exist. For me personally, I think like that's just like the feeling, like where if people ask me like what are my theories, and I'm just sort of like, well, I want to see these things, but I don't know anything about them, and I don't have any clues really, or like I'm not paying attention that deep. Maybe I should watch more theories, like because sometimes I feel like I'm gonna get spoiled, and I'm like, but what if it does happen like this?
There's a balance though. There's just a balance of like. There's a balance of not just subscribing to a theory because you saw a theory and you're surrounded in that headspace. And then there's also a balance of like being able to still have depth and enjoyment with the thing. Cause like my challenge to you, not an accusation, is just like, if you're not thinking that hard and you're just kind of like, hell yeah, Daddy Oda, whatever you're going to feed me this week. You know what I mean? I'm going to take it in. Like that's tight, but it's like, you know what I mean? When would you say your fandom was the deepest with One Piece? At a time when you were accepting the chapter every week, or at a time when you were really like so hyped up that you couldn't imagine what was going to come next and were hyped to think about it? You know what I mean? That could just be fatigue. In my mind, hearing you say this stuff, and one of my coworkers who well says this kind of stuff too about theories. To me, it's just like, these are a couple of vets who have fatigued because they've been on this train for so long, and I'm just still in the height of it because I'm late to the party. Recently. Exactly. So just like the hype is still there for me, and I just like I found the right moment to be being in on the hype.
Yeah, I think maybe it is fatigue because like like when you first like catch up with One Piece, then like it's like, oh, I want to see like what like everything that can happen with it. And for me, it's like I've been caught it for so long that I'm like, I've been bamboozled so many times that I'm like, I don't,
Yeah, I see that.
but also I'm just not, I don't think I'm as detail oriented as like I would like to be, like with, like some people, like for example, every time I go on a One Piece podcast, I love those guys, but I feel like I don't keep up with them as well because I'm not as like detail oriented or like remembering of every aspect as they are. They remember like everything super well, and I'm like, that guy, yeah, so
Yeah, big time,
it's
and that's real depth too. Those guys are like wicked deep, and I feel like I would have a blast, honestly, like in that vibe, and like if I took the time to dig that deep.
You would have a great
I
time.
feel like I think I would, but I think there's a level of there's a law of diminishing return there, where like what you're getting back for the level of detail and time and energy put in, it's just like not something I feel like I can dedicate that wholeheartedly to one thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have a big question for you. In reaction to this, honestly, and I want to know too. But and it can be a new, it can be an old, it can be even non-anime. What is, because I like One Piece is your favorite anime? Yeah, big time, right? Okay.
Yes.
What is any other or the closest other piece of like entertainment media that you feel has like match that level of like hype, investment, emotional attachment, etc. To you?
Like what comes to mind?
To One Piece, sorry.
Yeah, and like what comes to mind, because like I've been asked at least like my top 3 anime for so long, right? And then like it's always.
I feel like changing. I know what they are, but I feel like I feel like you change them.
Yeah, number 2, number 2 series of all time is Gurren Lagann, because I used to feel like the very shy kid, and then like it was like through like a series of things, including that show, that sort of enticed me to become more like, let's take on the world and see what happens, type of vibe. And like it's been so important, like that's why, like I'm not sure, like it still is like a banger series to me. That's my number 2, but it sort of inspired me to become like larger than life, really. Like that's like an aim of mine now. Even before I saw it, no. After I saw it, yes. I was like, I want to be, at least have a hand in like sort of shaping like how the universe spins, right? And like, I would say it's consciously because of anime. Another title, or I guess like another thing that's outside of that would be, like in music, it was Kid Cudi and Lupe, because it was, and Kanye and Gambino, like all those guys that you had mentioned earlier before, like those guys showed me is like, oh, okay, I don't have to be like the default, black guy. I can be like my own flavor of whatever it is, and really succeed. And then also like those particular guys showed me how to deal with trials, to make it something more optimistic. At least that's how I take it. So, yeah, I like that question. How about you?
First, I gotta say, I love, because you and I have talked about your, like, I feel like we've had this conversation many times about like your, like, especially like just adolescent and like racial identity, specifically in those artists too, and like the kind of like narrative that you found and saw in their storytellings. Like, I didn't even think necessarily to go to a music place with it, but I think that's really cool that you do feel that kind of level of depth and kind of kindredness with it. Because for me, I feel like it's so hard to do it with music for me in the same way. And honestly, I think just like Frank, like as a white dude, it would almost be disingenuous for me to say that I had that same level type of like hip hop for me is like about a love of several things, but it's not necessarily like, it is about the new perspective. Like it's about a radically different perspective that like except for in very specific circumstances, people from my background have a lot harder time like getting to experience and explore and like understand with. And the thing is like the abstract ways or the emotional ways that I find kindred, like, you know what I mean, similarity with that perspective is like, I think fundamentally how we can like culturally bridge the gap. and connect to one another and like get things out of art together. You know what I mean? So that's what it is for me. And I think that's a special transformative thing, but in a way it's hard for me to relate, you know what I mean, as directly. I think it's just part,
I know
what
you mean. Like since it's like hip hop is like so built on racial identity, you know. So
exactly. Like I mean, as it very well should be, and as a lot of like musical art forms and other art forms are too. So just kind of like, you know, nothing that takes it away from my single favorite music genre ever, whether or not the level of my belonging in it is what it is. It's my favorite. It's what I love. You know what I mean?
So just kind of it's a genuine love that is like no one should be ever no one could ever really tell you that you don't belong in it with it because of how much you do support it. But at the same time, you know, I'm glad you have like that awareness of like, okay, you know, like the cultural identity is like so deep and, you know, it was different from what you had. But yeah, I like that. I like that like, understanding.
But maybe in the same way, it does answer the question a little bit because I think part of it for me is like, I like being challenged by entertainment media in one way or another. I like to be challenged in terms of like something that I either like culturally believe or like intellectually believe, etc. by anime. And I feel like stuff like One Piece and Naruto, which you obviously know is extremely near and dear to my heart. As much as I do love and cherish One Piece, and One Piece has become, you know, a huge part of my life. It has become a corner piece, a unforgettable chapter of my career that is continuing to unfold that I'll never forget. You know what I mean? That I will continue to be thankful for every day. Is One Piece. But Naruto is almost like if I didn't have the relationship I had with Naruto, I don't think I would have had the opportunity that I had with One Piece. So it's like there's just kind of that reality to it there. But I think with both of those shows specifically and that type of storytelling, shonen storytelling, it just is like as I, you know, I mean, I was the target market hook, line, and sinker. It was just like that type of storytelling resonated with me in a way. It made me believe that I could be great and that I could be not ho-hum and that I had more power than I believed, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So it's like that stuff did resonate a lot at a young age. And just like in a way you grow up and you grow past that. But at the same time, it's like you stay true to holding on to like making sure those childlike dreams and ambitions stay core to who you are so you can be passionate, you know what I mean? And keep going. So even when shit is very difficult, like it has been the past several years. So just like, yeah, I mean, that shit is super deep for me. Let's see. I think like stuff like Fooly Cooly and Evangelion were really big for me. I think also too kind of like I see those two shows kind of as like the flip side a little bit because it's two male protagonists who are young that I obviously like identify with that were totally powerless. You know what I mean? Who kind of are like at the whims of like society or humanity or just like the inevitability of existence and things like that, and kind of had to like really struggle and just grind through it for no thank you and for no real benefit other than to just like get through another day. You know what I mean? And I think I resonated with that message as much as I did the other one. So I think those two things as a contrast are both really big for me.
That was a great answer, Surly, actually. Because I was just watching Evangelion rebuild movies, and I'm trying.
I got to rewatch those.
Yeah, because I want to see the last one. You know, so
yeah, I'm hyped.
Yeah, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I think I have like less empathy for Shinji this time around than I did like when
really.
I think so, in a way.
Interesting,
but also because I guess maybe because I've been just so shonenized at this point. It's like just take advantage and just do what you want, Shinji, blah, you know. But at the same time, because I'm like, yeah. Okay. Also, here's the thing. Here's one thing with Shinji. I'm like, bro, priority number one should be survival. All right, survive past these angels, and then survival. And then priority number two, then find love. All right, self-actualize after we survive. All right, it's like stop crying right now. I understand this shit is hard. It's scary. I don't blame it, bro. But at the same time, you need to do your best right now, because otherwise, we're all going to die. Why can you do this? I don't know, bro. Like, stop asking these questions right now. We'll figure it out after the fact, right? You know, that's what
you got to think about this. You got to think about this.
Yeah.
For Evangelion, because I think that's super apt. I think you got to think about when in your real life are you able to only focus and solely focus and dive in on one thing? Never. You're never able to be just the guy who's pushing on his career, who's not worried. True. You know what I mean? Like wherever you are, the reality of life and existence is just like you are being smattered with all of these things, and yourself is spread in all these directions. And Shinji didn't want to get in the fucking robot. He felt pressure to do it, and he wanted to try and claim and hang on to any. I mean, Shinji is a pathetic character, like I acknowledge it. But if you look at Shinji through your
even
eyes
as a
now,
kid,
as an adult who's achieved, versus like a kid who like. I don't think a kid should watch Evangelion, but like I resonate with the helplessness.
I think every kid should watch Evangelion. All right, it's like yes, I watched it when I was in 7th grade, and
that's not a kid though. 13, you can watch it at 13.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you should watch it at 13. You know, I think kids should be able to.
I was like a kid,
not like 6, but like 13. Yeah, 7th grade. Yeah, for real. I think like boom. That's that's a great time for someone to watch it. Like this is what the real world's like. It sort of sucks sometimes, And like
I mean, it's true. And like resonating with the helplessness, like that's to me is like Shinji is like along for the ride, because like that dude is that like not how.
Yeah, he very much is.
Adolescence feels like all you want to do is get in the driver's seat, and then you get in the driver's seat and you're like, oh shit, I could crash this car. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, and like that's like it's just like I don't know. It's just the reality of wanting to grow up fast, and Shinji having more responsibility than he realizes. And like even like Naota in Fooly Cooly too is like, his whole thing is kind of like being in a hurry to grow up, but like the way he wants to grow up and the ways he even sees what maturity and adulthood is are so fundamentally what's it called, immature and shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like he starts drinking. That's one of my favorite things details in the whole show. Just like when he transitions to drinking the non-sweet drink, he drinks the bitter drink or the spicy drink or whatever to seem more adult and stuff like that. He's like, that's what it was. And like, did we not all hang on to something like that of like, when I'm older, I'll not only drink beer, but I'll like the taste of beer, or like, something like that.
Yeah.
Or like, I'll like this thing. I'll like vegetables or whatever the fuck. Wow. I love that shit.
Very good insight.
It's a good show.
It is. Honestly, I do need to rewatch that. Like I love this Fully Cool. It's just 6 episodes, not one piece, 6 episodes. And then, which
is why it's also the perfect, you understand? It's the perfect, dichotomy between One Piece and Fully Cool and Naruto and One Piece and Fully Cool and Evangelion too.
Evangelion, right? Boom, boom, boom. Perfect ratio right there.
They go well together. They go well together.
Exactly it. Evangelion, I think my last point about it is like I do agree. But like one thing, like my favorite example of like taking control of helplessness is like seeing Uncle Iroh in jail. You see Uncle Iroh in Avatar gets taken into jail, right? And even when he's in jail, he is doing everything he can to be ready. It's like, yes, this shit sucks. You don't know what's going on the outside. You don't know what's going on with your nephew. You don't know what's going on with the world, and if they're gonna execute you real soon. But he got ready. He was like, I'm just going to work out as best I can. And then when it was time to bust out, he bust out. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that always happens, but I guess it's just sort of like, and like, of course, Shinji has more excuse. Uncle Iroh is a freaking old man, veteran, whereas Shinji is just a kid who's just seeing this shit for the first time.
Yeah. The experience, yeah.
But I wish, don't get me wrong. Shinji does try. He does try a lot,
But so he doesn't have the most. He doesn't have stick-to-itiveness. He doesn't have much in terms of willpower or like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have. And honestly, that reminds me too, because I'm like, the other big piece of like, I think one of the other most influential pieces of media in my entire life was like, as a kid, I was obsessed with the Green Lantern. I love the Green Lantern. Lifelong fan of those comics.
Okay, I was like, I like the movie. I like Ryan Reynolds.
We don't need to talk about that.
I had the worst food poisoning when I saw that movie. Oh my god.
You got fucking Clockwork Orange, dude. They Clockwork Orange. Jesus. Yeah, exactly. They made you sick and then sent you in just like everybody else.
I ate some AMC pizza. I don't know, and I just had the worst night the next day after. But anyways,
that's rough. Yeah, I was excited for the movie. I remember seeing the movie. I went to midnight release for it. I was super hype about it. I went in. It was just totally crushed by it. And I even loved Ryan Reynolds' casting.
Yes,
I thought he was excellent.
He's still making
money.
Yeah,
I just thought he was an excellent casting for Hal Jordan. I just thought he made so much sense. At the time, I was so on board with it. But it's what it is. It's what it is. But I loved, that was one thing your Uncle Iroh comment reminded me of, is like something else that super manifests with me about the differences between Naruto and Shinji and Naruto and Luffy is well exemplified in the Green Lantern to me, because I was obsessed with the idea of your willpower as a superpower, your literal will, how hard you believed you could do a thing, literally manifesting into an ability, was something that I loved and resonated with young, and even more than I realized as I got older and stuff. And you see, like, even in hockey, you know, because the concept of hockey is very much tied to willpower in a similar way, and I love that too. And a lot of Naruto is his ninja way and shit. And a lot of that is tied towards never giving up, having willpower, visualizing success, things like that. And I love that about fucking Green Lantern too. And I feel like he getting into his stuff is definitely like, because like DC Comics stuff like primed me for anime big time. I wouldn't be into anime if I wasn't DC Comics. You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. You know, like, don't get me wrong. I think like it is important to have a protagonist like Shinji, you know, who doesn't have it. You know, like, and not every anime character or main character needs to be, you know, just be reckless and crazy and just like wild like that. You know, so I am really hard on Shinji. I think it's just
so
also
easy,
like,
bro.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it makes me cringe at like the worst parts of myself too, right?
You're supposed to. Like, you have stories and main characters that you dissect and that you learn about as an exploration of what it looks like to have their strengths, and then you have Shinji, and the whole point of Shinji is an exploration of weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like, that's to me, that's what it is. It's like, for Shinji, even when he succeeded, it was still about how weak he was afterwards, how human he was, despite when he could pull stuff off. And like, even like Fully Cooley, you remember the moment when he, because he thinks that whenever, what's the robot's name, Conti, when the robot's sucking him up, that's when he's the key ingredient that makes it powerful. And then he realizes like he can do it with anybody, and he wasn't the special ingredient to it. He's just like everybody else and not adding to it at all. And kind of that like humbling at that young of an age of like, you know, even if I'm good at this, I'm nothing special. Like, I'm just another person who has to earn their way in this world like everybody else, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's just the difference in that type of narrative to explore, which, you know, it's like both are valid, but it's obviously going to be easier to take a dunk on the freaking kid that's, you know, teaching you about the flaws of humanity and being a human than the one who's teaching you the best of it, you know?
Whew. Bro, I like hearing you talk. I gotta get you on the podcast some more, because this is great, you know? I'm learning new things about titles that I thought I knew about, and it's like,
good shit, man. Good shit.
What do you know about that? You know, this is great. Hopefully, this enticed listeners. Honestly, I enjoyed this whole conversation. This was a wonderful time. Gotta get you back on the podcast for some more, because it's some great insight. Yes, thank you so much, man. I guess people can't find you right now on social media, right?
Yeah, you can't find me nowhere. You'll never find me.
Yeah, he is hidden.
Don't try. It wouldn't even be fun. I got nothing interesting. I got nothing. Yeah, I'm not even visible. You could find me. There'd be no point. There's nothing interesting.
Oh, this is Aaron. He's my best friend. I appreciate talking with you. I can't wait till next time. And for everyone that listened, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let me know what you think about these podcast episodes. Do you like when we talk to just random friends, or do you just want famous people only? But no, honestly, I really did enjoy this episode. Yeah, I definitely gotta get you back on pretty soon. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but stuff gotta happen. But nonetheless, let's keep talking and hanging out. And everybody listen, thank you as always. Stay dope. Peace.